They say there is a moment every year when the world holds its breath. It happens on the night between January 5th and January 6th, when the feast of the Epiphany arrives quietly, wrapped in prayer and frost. A night when water remembers what it has touched, when the dead remember their names, and when the living are not always alone in their homes. That night, snow fell over the suburb like an act of erasure. It wasn't the violent kind of snow that howls and blinds. It fell slowly, endlessly, each flake drifting down as if it had all the time in the world. Streetlights glowed dimly through the white veil, their light bent and swallowed. Sound vanished first, then distance, then certainty. By late evening, the suburb on the edge of Timișoara no longer felt like part of the city. It felt cut loose, floating. I stood at my living room window long after the neighbors' lights had gone out, watching the snow bury the road, the sidewalks, the low fences separating one identical house from another. Every familiar shape softened, then disappeared. The world outside was becoming smooth, featureless, blank. That should have comforted me. Instead, it felt like being watched by something that didn't blink. I was home alone. My husband had left that afternoon, just before the first heavy snow began to fall. He kissed my forehead, joked about roads and delays, promised he'd be back after the feast. I watched his car disappear slowly, tires crunching through slush until even the sound was gone. The silence that followed felt deliberate. Inside the house, the air was too still. No drafts, no creaks. Even the refrigerator hummed more quietly than usual. I checked the locks twice, then once more, my fingers lingering on the cold metal. On the kitchen table sat a clear glass bottle of great holy water. I had brought it home earlier that day, holding it carefully, as if it were fragile in ways glass alone could not explain. My grandmother's voice echoed in my mind, uninvited. Sprinkle the house at midnight. Don't forget the windows, especially the windows. I told myself those were just old habits, old fears. Still, I didn't move the bottle. By 11:30, the snow outside had thickened. Large flakes drifted lazily past the window, spinning, colliding, vanishing into the growing white below. I felt oddly drowsy, my thoughts heavy, as if the night itself were pressing me towards sleep. When I finally went to bed, my phone read 12:41 a.m., January 6th. The feast of the Epiphany had begun. The moment I closed my eyes, sleep pulled me under. Not gently. The dream placed me back in my bedroom, perfectly unchanged. The same shadows, the same pale light reflecting off the snow outside. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, aware of every detail with unnatural clarity. I tried to move. I couldn't. My limbs were heavy, numb, as if buried beneath layers of earth. Panic rose slowly, blooming in my chest, pressing against my ribs. My breathing grew shallow, each inhale a conscious effort. That's when the sound began. At first, it was distant, almost subtle. A slow scrape, metal against metal. It came from the front of the house, the gate. Something was dragging its fingers along the iron bars, not hurried, not angry, curious, appreciative. Each movement was deliberate, savoring the sound. The noise traveled through the walls, through the floor, through my bones. It stopped. Snow crunched. Heavy, uneven. Footsteps. They moved closer, circling the house, pausing beneath windows, listening. I could feel its attention like a weight, pressing against the glass. The blinds in my bedroom quivered. The temperature dropped suddenly, sharply, enough to sting my skin. My breath fogged in front of my face. Frost spread across the window in thin, branching veins, creeping inward like living things. Then the voice spoke. "Open." It was my voice. Or not exactly. It somehow carried my tone, my rhythm, but it was hollowed, stretched thin, stripped of warmth, as if it had spent too long underground. The blinds lifted on their own. Outside the window stood a figure shaped like a woman. Snow clung to its shoulders, its hair, but it did not melt. Its skin was deathly pale, stretched tight over sharp angles. Its eyes were sunken deep into its skull, glistening with a dark, wet intelligence. It smiled. With my mouth. "Epiphany," it whispered, and the word carried weight, history, hunger. It raised its hand and pressed its palm against the glass. The window cracked, not shattering, just a little bit. Enough for the cold to pour into the room, flooding my chest, crushing my lungs. I felt something tugging at me from the inside, as if my name, my breath, my reflection were being pulled loose. "I was never buried right," it said, its eyes bored into mine. "I came back for what was left." I tried to scream. I woke up instead. My scream tore out of me in the real world, raw and desperate. Morning light seeped weakly through the blinds, dull and gray. My heart hammered violently as I gasped for air, my throat burning. For a long moment, I lay there, listening. A distant car, a dog barking, the ordinary sounds of morning. It was just a nightmare. I repeated that as I sat up, as I swung my legs off the bed, as my bare feet touched the floor. The cold hadn't left. The house was freezing, or at least far colder than it should have been. My breath fogged the air as I walked into the hallway. Each step echoed too loudly, as if the walls had hollowed out overnight. Then I saw the front door. It stood open. Not wide, just enough. The lock was broken, twisted inward. Snow had drifted inside, melting into muddy streaks across the tile floor. Bare footprints marked the path into the house. They were long, narrow, wrong. I followed them, my pulse roaring in my ears, into the kitchen. The bottle of holy water was empty, not spilled, not knocked over. Drained. The cork lay carefully beside it, placed with intention. On the wooden table, carved deep enough to splinter the surface, was a single word. Open. The temperature dropped again. I felt it behind me, the presence, heavy, intimate. The smell of damp soil filled my lungs. A breath brushed my ear. "You dreamed of me," the voice said softly, "because you remembered." Something cold closed around my wrist. And in the dark window, reflected in the endless falling snow outside, I saw myself smile, before I ever did.